are listening to the Healthy Families Rule podcast, hosted by health coach Heather, master health coach and wellness educator specializing in family health. This show is about raising a strong, healthy, resilient family with confidence and courage in a confused world. Hang out with me each week to learn practical coaching tips, parenting advice, nutrition and exercise suggestions, and stress reducers to apply to your mental and physical well-being. Come listen to all the Healthy Families Rule podcast episodes on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Enjoy the show. Hi, welcome to the Healthy Families Rule podcast. Today I am here with Nellie Harden. Did I say that right, Nellie?
Yes, you absolutely did.
Awesome, Nellie. Okay, Nellie is amazing. I've checked out her website. She does a lot of work with families, and I'm going to let her introduce herself before we get into the nitty-gritty of the conversation today. Nellie, tell us a little bit more about you and what you do.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's a lot. So my name is Nellie Harden. I am at my core, I am a family life and leadership coach. And what does that mean? It really means that I take families and I build in self-led discipline and leadership into the family during what I call the 65-70, which that's how many days are in 18 years. That's our training zone as parents. And so I help insert self-led discipline and leadership and the mindsets and the skill sets that go into that inside that family so that leadership is cemented into the DNA of those kids before they ever leave home. That really sets a firm foundation for anything they want to do in their future. So that's really what I want to do, or what I do. And I am a wife and mom myself. I have 4 kiddos, all teens and tweens. So I am right there with everybody that is parenting right now. My kids are between 11 and 16 now. In fact, this is the first year that I don't have elementary, middle, and high. I just have middle and high. So middle and high school. So that's kind of fun. And we live in coastal North Carolina in a very small town. And I absolutely love just reaching into families and helping them just build to their absolute best and helping those kids really uncover, helping the parents and the families help the kids really uncover just what's inside of them and their true potential, because it can be so easily masked today with everything that's going on, all of the distractions and all of the, the underground accepted level of quote unquote teenagerism, right? And so when we can take that and that burden off of our kids and let them truly shine and see what they want to do and what contributions they can make, it's truly spectacular. But I've been working behavior my entire career, from humpback whales to veterinary work. And then I've been working with humans for well over 10 years now. So it's been quite a journey.
Oh my gosh, humpback whales.
Yes.
You sound like you're in everything. Like, this is awesome. You've had your little toe dipped in a lot of different things. And so that is just so cool. I love that you're instilling leadership into kids. My kids actually go to a school called American Leadership Academy. And
nice.
That's kind of their focus too, is to help raise the next generation to be leaders. And how important right now, because a lot of kids aren't getting that in the home from the parents, because we don't really know how, or we're too busy, or we just don't know where the focus should be to help them grow into leaders. So I love that is basically what you do, right? Is help these kids be leaders.
100%. Yeah. And I, just reaching into them, I have a family leadership academy that I run, and it truly is a beautiful thing to watch a family come in, and we start at the end and we really establish what each unique family wants before their kids leave home. And then the entire academy is spent building the map in order to make that happen through their unique wants and needs and dynamics that they have in their family. And it's literally like watching things blossom. It's so neat to see.
I love it. I feel like it's so important for my listeners to know that you should invest in parenting ways to solutions to be better parents and raise a better generation of kids. I'm always trying to learn myself on how we can do things better and raise them up to be good citizens, because how often are we seeing the leadership in our own country just kind of crumble from state to state and place to place? It's just so different, isn't it, now than it was years and years ago. But we want to raise kids who can be a little bit stronger and know how to lead the world. So I appreciate that you're doing all of that. That's awesome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Today's topic, though, is called Comparison, the Thief of Joy. So we want to get into this comparison thing with kids and with parents. Sometimes we do this, don't we? I want to know, why is comparing so detrimental to children? What would you say to that question?
That it's a huge question, and comparison is inevitable, but we can also train it out of that DNA of the kids. Like I was saying earlier, when they are within this 65, 70 training period, this parenthood, childhood dynamic that happens. And I mean, let's face it, parents, if you go to any college out there, right, those professors went to school, got degrees, are professionals in that, and then turn around and teach it. Well, parents, there is no degree that we go and get to be a parent. We are just all of a sudden a parent, and we're raising kids. And so we're learning and teaching at the same time all the time. And so adults that are comparing themselves a lot will typically then turn around and have kids that are comparing themselves a lot. Now, that's not to say that there can't be growth in that, because I'm raising my hand. I am definitely one of those growth people where I used to be a very, very heavy comparison person. I still fall into the trap sometimes. I think it's very easy to, but I am definitely buck stops here. That is not a core belief that I want my kids to have. And we recognize that a while ago. And so we have taken the steps in order to stop that. But to answer your question more specifically, is what can the harm be? There's really three, alternatives that, or three results that happen when you are doing comparison. You are either going to self-sabotage, right? Because when you are comparing two different things, their only results are going to be more than or less than. They are not going to ever be equal, because they're two different things. And so you are either going to end up with self-sabotage, as in they are better, right? In whatever aspect of that person that you're looking at, they are better. So you are going to go into a downward spiral of self-sabotage. Or you are going to have this debilitating self-soothing, which is, oh, it's okay, I'm not as bad as they are, right? I'm not as big as they are. They're bigger. So I'm okay right now, because I got 2 percentage points more than them. So, okay, I at least I wasn't as bad as they are. But that's not good either, right? Because you're inadvertently putting that person down, whether in your mind or out in public. You're still putting that person down. So that's debilitating self-soothing. And then we also have this self-amplifying spiral, which can also go downward. And you're like, I am so good. I am so amazing. All these other people are not as good as I am at this thing. And then that takes you down in a downward spiral, because we know that if you are exhibiting and feeling those things, then you can really sabotage a lot of your friendships, relationships, and even yourself. And the higher you put yourself up on this false stage of self-amplifying, the harder that fall is going to be when something inevitably is going to go wrong. And so those are no good. None of them are going to serve you. None of them are going to serve the people around you. Now, there is a form of comparison that is this incidental, grateful abundance, kind of comparison, which is just sitting in, you know what? This is what I'm going through right now, and it could be so much worse, or it could look like this, but I'm so grateful that I have at least what I have. Now, that kind of comparison, which is not toward any one thing in particular, that kind of comparison is okay. And I don't want people to think, oh, I can't ever compare anything, because that one can grow you. That's an acceptance. That's a grateful place that you can sit in. But when you are comparing one being yourself to another, those other three tracks are the only place that you can go. So if you are a parent and you can recognize this, and the more recognition, the more accountability that you can have for this, then the more you can turn down this dial for yourself. But if we see our kids doing this before it gets set into those core beliefs, we can really have those discussions about exactly what I just said and how comparing yourself to yourself is a much better road to take.
Yeah, I love all of that. Parents also, they do compare themselves to other people, of course, and kids compare themselves to other people. But what about when a parent is comparing their child to another child? And how hard is this on the child? Because I'm sure we've all done it before, like
Oh my
just out of
goodness.
the blue,
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
why can't you play the piano like this? And why don't you want to take lessons? And why, look at how good he plays? Or, you know what I mean? It could be anything. We could just compare our child to some other person's child.
Yes.
What do you say to parents like who are caught in this trap of doing that over and over again? How do we gain some awareness?
It really comes down to recognizing, because if you're if no one ever hands you that awareness, or you're not doing personal growth in order to gain that awareness on your own, that is really going to be a spiral that is going to cause distance between you and your child, and we don't want that, obviously. And also, I mean, it could be outside of the home. Many times I run into it's inside of the home, comparing siblings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so one sibling to another. And I actually had a unique perspective on this because I have twins. And so I have four kids. My middle two are twins. And I had to learn when they were itty bitty babes not to compare them, because they're very, very different people and different abilities and different personalities. And I had one walking like 6 months before the other one did. And I was all afraid. I was like, oh no, like they're never going to walk. This isn't a thing. And they're like, no, that's just the way she is. And she was this way and she is this way. So I started getting this training of individuality between siblings. And then obviously that echoes outside of the home as well. But really just celebrating who that person is individually is what we need to do, and what we need to teach them too. That's an antidote to this comparison, is celebrating who you are individually and understanding that your gifts and your talents and your personality and the way your body is and all of these things have literally never been put together before in the course of human history. You are the only one that is uniquely you and will ever be uniquely you. And
Hmm.
so really just setting that course of, you can't compare to anyone else because there is no one else that is like you. I mean, can you compare a horse to a dog and their temperament and things like that just because both of them, have four legs on the ground? Of
No.
course not.
Mm-hmm.
And so really just setting the stage of everyone is so individual. And that means we all have very, very individualized, specialized, unique contributions to make to this world as well. And letting that come to the surface is much better than having this, oh, well, they did this and they did this, right? And so, yeah, just trying to stick to the unique column of yourself and showing that to your kids versus comparison.
Yeah, I think parents need to get out of this idea of this is what my parents taught me and this is what I
Mm,
feel is right. So I'm pushing that on you now. Instead of like really getting to know the child, almost like you would get to know a new person. Like, what do you
mhm.
like? What are you into? What are your interests? Like, if we just sat down with our kids, right? And we're really trying to get to know them as an individual, wouldn't we approach life and our relationships a lot different
Oh,
than what's
so
been
true.
ingrained in us, right? From
Yes.
it could have been from past ancestors passed into our DNA too. We're just
Mhm.
pushing this idea on what the world should be and what it's supposed to look like. And if you're not fitting into this box, you're somehow out there somewhere. We got to pull you back in because we've all been
Mhm.
taught to do things a certain way, right? We got to go to
Abs-
college. We got to graduate with these kind of grades. And these are expectations that a lot of people have on their kids that can be
Oh yeah.
comparisons.
Oh, absolutely. And in my leadership academy, family leadership academy, I specifically go to that because I think every parent needs to know their kid, and every kid needs to know their parent, and vice versa. Because when you start bringing that vulnerability piece into it, as in, I am not just your child, I am a person, and I am not just your mom, I am a person, right? And bringing that vulnerability and human piece to it, not just this leader follower and in charge and subordinate, we bring a different level of dynamic in there. It literally changes the game. So getting to know them on that personal level is imperative to any sort of relationship that you can have and grow, and guide them in who they can possibly become. Because if you don't know, then you certainly can't guide them.
Yeah. I like that you mentioned that vulnerability piece, because I think
Mm,
that's important for parents to kind of humble themselves a little bit and say, look, I've messed up in these areas of my
mhm.
parenting and I really want to do better. And I'm sorry that I've compared you to certain people. Help me to point that out because I don't see that all the time. And we just be vulnerable and say, my parents did this to me or this happened to me. And I think that's why I'm like this, but I'm sorry, I'm learning. Don't you think a parent needs to start there kind of and be vulnerable enough to apologize and start over? And it's okay. And don't feel guilty on yourself either, because that's not going to do any good. Right.
100%. And just like I said earlier, parents are learning how to parent as the kids are learning how to grow up. And so there's this convergence
Yes.
that is
Yep.
happening there.
Hmm.
And so being open and vulnerable in that, and still keeping your place as the leader, as the captain of the team, so to speak, but also being open and honest, and saying to them, I am really sorry for this. Anytime that you ruffle feathers and you use power in a not so appropriate way, right? We as parents, I can guarantee it happens to, I'll just say I've never met a parent yet that hasn't abused power at least once or twice, right? The go to your room. Why? Because I said
Because I
so,
said so. Yeah. Yeah. I know
all of
that
these
line.
things. Yeah. I
Yeah.
know, me too. So all of these things, and we do that, and it's okay to mess up, and it's okay to grow from that mess up. It's okay to admit and talk to them about that. I had an instance the other night. I was sitting here, it was actually late at night, and I had my headphones on, and I was, in the zone, very, very deep in thought. And one of my daughters just came up, and she was just being goofy behind me, trying to like scare me or whatever. And I just like wigged out on her because I was like, I am trying to do this, blah, blah, blah. And like 10 minutes later, I was like, ah. So I went in her bedroom and I was like, I just wanted to apologize. I don't like being scared though. So please don't do that. But I definitely overreacted, and I'm very sorry. And I hope you have a very good sleep. And she was like, okay, mom, thanks. And sorry too, you know? And
Yeah.
so even just little things like that, I totally
Mhm.
overreacted, probably because my heart was jumping out of my chest at the same time. But still, that was on me. It was on her, but we came together and mutually understood, maybe I could have done things better. Yeah, maybe I could have done things better too. So it doesn't have to be anything monumental. It could be even something very small. And I wanted to go back to your point really quick too about this generational parenting that
Mm.
you see of, my parents did this and I seem to turn out, this quote, I seem to turn out okay. So I'm going to keep doing this. When, I almost feel like anyone that says I seem to turn out okay is like not okay in some way. Right. Um, but we also very much have to understand that this generation of kids, maybe more than any that I can think of in recent history, is growing up in a very different era than their parents did.
Yes.
And so, what worked for your parents parenting you is, at least directly, there might be a variety of or a version of it, but it's not directly going to work on our kids today. Our kids today are facing different things than anyone has faced. They are distracted by different things than they've ever been distracted with before. They are dealing with social norms that are fluid and changing every single day. It is a very strange time to be a kid, especially a kid that's in this preteen, teen era, because they are seeking independence at this time, and they're needing a tremendous amount of guidance from parents that are learning how to guide during this time. And so that's where that vulnerability piece really, really comes in. Like, we're in this together. We are a team and we're in this together. And no matter what happens outside of our doors today, when you come home, it's us and we're your family and we are always going to be here your whole life long. I don't know if Susie or Mark or whoever your friends are going to be there for your whole life, but we definitely are. So let's sit down. Let's talk about this. Let's work through this. Let me help you. And let's work together because we're a team. And
Oh, love that.
yeah, I feel very strongly about the team work ethic of a family, but still obviously keeping the parents as the team captains.
Yeah, that's great. That's also great. What I'm noticing about this generation of kids is they need explained to more. You
Mm,
can't just spank them and let them go and expect them to like behave, right? It's like they need to be explained the situation more. They need more information for some reason, and their brains are processing so much already. But this is just what I've seen in my own kids is they do better when we sit down and have these conversations and they're detailed and kind of what we're expecting now before we go into this situation. It's going to be like this. Like they need explaining a lot more than probably generations in the past did. They probably did it so differently. You just go in, you do it wrong, you get spanked, whatever, you're home, whatever. It's so
yep.
different now. Parenting it is so challenging, but it's also a huge blessing. How could we say it's a blessing raising kids right now in the world when it's so challenging? What do you think?
Well, I think that we have the tremendous honor and responsibility in order to raise the future leaders that are going to take care of this world around us. And
Mhm.
we can't let them fall asleep at the wheel because of the distractions and because of everything that's happening. And, these discussions like you're talking about, they do need to be explained more because instead of option A or B out there of, what to choose or what's happening in the world or, even what to eat, for goodness sakes, anything, instead of this limited amount of options, there is a infinite number of options of things. And so when someone makes a decision, if we're making a decision for the family or we're making a decision, with them or for them, depending on their age and all of this, they need to know why. Like, why are you choosing this instead of the 97 other things that we could choose? Now, that's not to say that, you as a busy parent need to clear the calendar and sit down and have a 45-minute talk every hour about
Right.
whatever's happening. You can say, what, this is what we're doing. I will explain it to you later. I'm sorry if you don't like it. But it is for your best interest, the family's best interest, whatever that is. But I will explain it to you. I just can't do it right now. Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
Instead of the because I said so, or this whole, I mean, there was centuries of if you're a child, you are to be seen and not heard, right? Sometimes
Right.
not even seen,
Yeah.
And so, and now we live in a culture that kids have YouTube channels with millions of followers on them, right? And so voices are being heard, kids' voices, more than any other time in history that
Mhm.
I know of. And so they want to be heard and they want to be listened to. And they're like, well, if you aren't going to listen to me, then I'm going to find another vehicle that will listen to me. And that all comes down to one of my very favorite, parenting guidelines is if you don't, who will, right? If you aren't
Mm.
going to step in and guide your kid, if you aren't going to teach them this self-led discipline and how to lead themselves, and who is, I mean, you just
Mhm.
don't know.
Yeah. I think it's innate within all of us too to want to be seen. We want to be heard and we want to feel like we're lovable, right?
Oh, yeah.
That popularity piece that teenagers especially seek for. I know my son has a friend. He's got this ginormous home. He's got everything he could ever ask for, right? And he goes and plays over there a lot and then he comes home and he's like, our stuff sucks. He basically feels like this is too small, this isn't good enough. And this is hard for me as a parent because I remember feeling that way when he was a kid too. I was embarrassed to have friends over at my house because I felt like it was too small or too messy or something. It wasn't perfectly put together like some of these people's houses are.
Mm-hmm.
How do we, and we don't want to compare down either, but I find that my child never compares down. Like he never compares down and says, oh, look, my life is good, which you're saying is probably a good thing too, because you're inadvertently putting this other person down when you compare down. But also, I want him to see that his life can be perfect exactly where it is. I want to instill that in him. And that's hard to teach a teenager who wants more and wants
Yeah.
popularity and wants the riches and wants the world, even, like,
Yep.
how do we teach these teenagers and these tweens and stuff coming into the social system we're in of more is better to be happy with where they're at too, and like simplicity can be a good thing too. What would you
Oh,
say?
so good. So good. And so my family's that, and I would say we're a family like this too. My husband and I, we did not come from a lot or, riches and all of this, but we've definitely built a comfortable lifestyle because of very hard work. But what our kids aren't seeing, and they can hear things, but they haven't lived it. And what I see in this is I call it generational leadership paralysis, because we had to build, us as parents, you guys as parents, other parents out there, we had to build up from the ground. And then our kids are born into our after, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're born into the after, and they're just cozy, cushy, this is all great. You know what? It could be even greater, because look at Billy, or, whoever down the street, or Nancy down the street, all these things. And they don't understand where it comes from. And so inserting experiences is vital here in these kiddos, inserting these experiences where they can be humbled and understand how they can serve others that are not nearly as fortunate as them. And so I really believe that service. We're a family that through and through, my husband and I met in community service, co-ed fraternity, Alpha Phi Omega. Like, we are born servants. And if we can get our kids serving, then so much of that comparison of so-and-so has whatever, it gets washed out the window so quick if we can get them into servant mode.
Holy cow, that is so good. I'm writing that down right now because that reminds me that I need to go do more service with my kids, so they can experience what it's like to help all sorts of kinds of people in different situations, right? It does
Absolutely.
it makes you appreciate your life a lot and all the
Yes.
things that you do have. That's beautiful. I think we covered just about everything I wanted to cover with you. I wanted you to tell us a little bit more about this family leadership boot camp you have.
Oh, yes. So I have a boot camp coming up, and this is a beautiful time where we are really going to be discussing my learning-based communication. And it goes with exactly what we were talking about, getting to know your kid so you can speak to them in a language they understand. There's so many times that your kid is talking and you're talking, and there's like a wall between you, right? Because
Right.
you're not understanding what they're saying. They're not understanding what you're saying. And it's because there's different learning styles, there's different personality styles. And anytime that you learn, you are taking in information. And so we need to meld that together so you can know each other and actually speak the same language. And there's no language barrier anymore. And once that language barrier comes down, oh, the floodgates are open to bring in vulnerability and everything else that comes with that. And so we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the big mistakes that parents make in building work ethic, right? We all want our kids to be able to have this great work ethic, but are we actually putting in the work on the back end to make sure that happens? Or are we just hoping that the work ethic fairy comes down and like sprinkles some magic dust on them, So we're going to be talking about that. And all of this can be found. You can sign up for it. It's completely free, family leadership boot camp. And you can find that at nellieharden.com/bootcamp. And that's Nellie. A lot of people like to spell it with a Y, but NELLIEHARDEN.com/bootcamp.
That's a free boot camp.
Yep.
And when is this taking place?
This is taking place, the next one anyway, is taking place October 3rd through 7th. And then I have this on cycle that I do every few months. And so if you miss that one, you can certainly go there and get on the waiting list, and we will have another one coming up.
Awesome. So that's a 5-day boot camp, you guys,
Yep.
and that is really awesome. How does that compare to your 6570 project?
The 6570 project is that's the name of my platform. And that is really where all of the training zones come in. Now, my program is the Family Leadership Academy. And that is a 5 months. We go in and we go down to the details so that you can make sure that where you want to be at the end of that 6570, that you actually get there. Because it's one thing to just haphazardly, and how most of us did it and how I used to do it, like, oh, well, I hope this happens. Sure. I hope that when they go to college, they have these attributes and, these personality skills and things like this. But then I was like, if I don't do it, who will? If I want to make sure they have it, then I need to actually go in and have the skill set and mindset and those discussions and those that communication, those time mastery skills, and actually implement these life elements such as education and joy and finances, all those things that get cemented in during our core beliefs in this 6570. All of those things, I want to actually design them. So I call parents family architects, because we are planning, designing, and overseeing the building of our children. That is our greatest project. That's where the 6570 project comes from. So as a family architect, this is our greatest project, is building them and helping them launch into their life with the absolute strongest foundation that we can.
Oh, this sounds incredible. And what would you say to busy working moms or maybe single moms? Is this something they could do too?
Oh, absolutely. I am a very busy working mom right there. So I wanted to make it something that I also would be able to do. I mean, I actually homeschool my kids, and we own a family business, and this is my passion project. And so we are very busy, and I wanted to make it so anyone could definitely be a part of this, no matter what your schedule looks like.
Okay, awesome. Are you on Instagram or Facebook?
I am on both. You can find me. Let's see. Instagram is just Nellie Harden, and Facebook is Nellie.Harden.
Oh, I love that. It's easy. Okay. So when you do your boot camps, are they like in a private Facebook page? Are you doing the boot camp live? What's that like for people?
I'll be doing it live. So there's homework each day so that you can actually start to implement and get some exercises in there for your family, and just open the jar, right? Open the idea jar and get some things moving forward for you. And then I'll be having live videos every day, and it will be through Facebook too.
Okay, you guys do not miss this boot camp. It's coming up October 3rd through the 7th. That is going to be soon. So if you're catching this podcast after that, I'm going to for sure leave links to all of Nellie's stuff in the show notes. So you can go check out her website, get on her list for the next boot camp, and check out her Family Leadership Academy?
Yep.
Sounds awesome. Well, Nellie, if you could leave my listeners with just one piece of advice that they could go home with today, what would you tell them to do?
Oh, goodness. I would just say, understand that you do only have 6570 in here. So what are you going to do with today in order to build to where you want to be? Just being so intentional with your time is just so important, to make sure a day doesn't go by that you're not building toward something. And it could be a dance party in the kitchen. Like, just go have fun, enjoy it, and know that you're building toward their future and yours too. This is 18 years of your life. 18 years of their life. Make it amazing.
Ooh, I love all of that. That's so great. Okay, Nellie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And we're just so grateful for all the wisdom you shared with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye, Heather.
Bye-bye. Have a good one. Hey, if you enjoyed this podcast, you have to come check out my coaching and all I have to offer. Whether you're trying to lose weight, get the kids healthier, overcome hard challenges in your life, or just need some support, I'd love to be your coach. I'm going to help you take all this material I teach here on the podcast, on this YouTube channel, and apply it to your life. So come on over to healthcoachheather.com to learn more.